welcome to this little mini series for leadership. Now the reason it's a series is because this is actually going to cover several topics which fit under one broad umbrella. So we're going to be looking at pro-social modelling as a leadership technique. Now when I was first exposed to leadership and leadership training, pro-social modelling was the way in which the course that I delivered was structured. As such, this is kind of my bread and butter basis for leadership training, so I thought it would be interesting to share the findings from that training with you, just so that you can get a little bit of insight into how pro-social modelling works. So first of all, this first little video is going to talk about what actually is pro-social modelling, and then there'll be subsequent videos which will look at each of the individual modules that fit into that subject. Now, pro-social modelling is not actually a leadership technique. It is something that is generally related to criminals and probation and rehabilitation of offenders, but the lessons that have been learned from it apply to leadership, and the key points of pro-social modelling are very, very specific and very, very useful for leadership. So let's start looking at pro-social modelling and what that actually is. As I said, it normally relates to criminality and the rehabilitation of offenders. So Forensics Fact Sheet describes pro-social modelling as a simple and effective technique that can contribute to behaviour change in forensic clients. It refers to the ways in which individuals working with involuntary clients can model and reinforce pro-social values to elicit similar values in their clients. This is done through the positive reinforcement of a client's desirable thoughts and actions while confronting pro-criminal or antisocial behaviours. Pro-social modelling has actually been around probably since the early 70s, but became more prominent in the 90s with the work of Dr. Chris Trotter, and this is how I first became exposed to the concept. Basically, Trotter was working with offenders and probation officers and discovered that those offenders who were working with probation officers who modelled desirable qualities, behaviours, then they would have a higher success rate with their clients. What tended to happen was there was a lower reoffending rate with those people who had been working with the social workers who had been exhibiting the desirable behaviours. Now I know that probably seems a little bit vague, so perhaps an easier way to explain pro-social modelling is to look at what it isn't. If you were walking down the street and somebody came up to you and asked you to explain antisocial behaviour, then that's probably something that you could do quite easily. You would think about people hanging around on street corners, drunken groups, maybe some low-level drug taking, a little bit of vandalism, graffiti, all of that sort of stuff you would consider antisocial behaviour. So actually antisocial behaviour is something that we're all quite familiar with and we find quite easy to describe and understand as a concept. Pro-social behaviour is literally the opposite of antisocial behaviour. When we look at pro-social modelling, what we're actually doing is exhibiting pro-social behaviour and modelling it to other people, those people that we wish to take on those characteristics. So pro-social behaviour is being on time, being kind to people, being helpful, being honest, having integrity. All of those sorts of things are pro-social behaviours. And by modelling those behaviours, those social workers that Trotter was studying were, in a sense, in layman's terms, rubbing off on the people that they were working with. Because as we'll see in future modules, people follow the examples of those people that are around them. So if you're working with somebody who is exhibiting specific behaviours, you're likely to start mirroring those behaviours, and this is how pro-social modelling can link into leadership. Now that's not to say that we're trying to convert somebody to our ways of thinking or our ways of doing stuff. All it is those little things that we can change in our behaviour that will help inspire people and lead them and want them to follow us. So, the key elements of pro-social modelling that we are going to be looking at over the next few videos are role clarification, leading by good example, rewarding good behaviour, challenging poor behaviour, motivational conversations, and building good relationships. And probably what you're thinking is actually you recognise some of those behaviours from leadership texts that you've looked at, or other business books or other management books. And that's why pro-social modelling works so well as a leadership technique, because they are the basis of leadership. So you will probably be very familiar with a lot of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about, and that's a good thing because that just goes to show you how pro-social modelling fits in with leadership, and hopefully will build on any leadership foundations that you already have by talking about topics that you're already familiar with. I will say as a caveat, those last two actually come pretty much as a result of the preceding four. So the first four are probably going to be slightly longer videos than the other two, but they are important, so we will look at them separately. Another caveat is that I used to deliver this as a 4-day course. I have done it in half-day courses and 1-day courses as well, so I have done them with varying lengths. To get the most out of this course, running it over 4 days is ideal because you can spend half a day at least on each of these subjects, plus a few other leadership subjects that we can add into the mix. But just to be aware that these little 10-15 minute videos are not the full extent of everything that you need to know about pro-social modelling. It is a much wider topic, and what I have done is I have honed them down into little, pretty much summaries to give you a bit of an overview of how they work. And then there's lots of other resources, there's breakouts that you can do, activities that you can do, there's lots of discussions that you can have with groups if you're doing it in group training. It is a massive subject and there are a wide range of ways in which you can train this, but in order for me to give you an idea of how it works and to give you a bit of a taste around the kind of behaviours that a good leader should be modelling, then these little videos should help. So, pro-social modelling. The next few videos are all going to be about different elements and how you can incorporate them into your day-to-day life to help you be a better leader. Thank you for watching, and I hope you watch the rest of the series.